Hey everyone, I find that not many developers know about Keyboard Maestro, and Keyboard Maestro has been really essential to me in building out a productive workflow for my screencasts. So I thought I would do a quick video showing how I built my ScreenFlow automation with Keyboard Maestro. Now, you do have to purchase Keyboard Maestro, but it's like less than $40 and it's an amazing application. You can also usually find some sort of coupon out there for like 20% off or something like that, but it's well worth it. You're also going to need one more tool if you really want to do this the right way. You're going to want this tool called Karabiner Elements. Karabiner Elements will let you convert your caps lock key into a shortcut for ctrl-opt-command-shift, I think it is, which lets you add a whole new layer of keyboard shortcuts to your Mac. Lastly, if you really want to learn more about Keyboard Maestro, there's actually no better resource than the Keyboard Maestro Field Guide by David Sparks, otherwise known as Mac Sparky. It's only 29 bucks, and it's got like hours and hours of content on how to use Keyboard Maestro to the fullest. Keyboard Maestro is sort of like somebody dumping a box of Legos onto your desk that can be used to build pretty much anything you want, but it can be kind of intimidating at first. Okay, so let's jump into the actual workflow. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up Karabiner Elements. And once you're in Karabiner Elements, you're going to click on Complex Modifications. You can see I've already got this enabled, but you can go to Add Rule and then enable this one for change caps lock to Command-Control-Option-Shift. And you'll see in just a second why this is so great when you're in Keyboard Maestro. Okay, so that's done. Now let's go over to Keyboard Maestro. When you're in Keyboard Maestro, it's got 3 panes, which is sort of a familiar interface, but there's a lot of stuff going on here. So the left pane is your groups of macros. A macro is basically an automated process. You're probably familiar with that term. Then you've got macros in the center column here, and then this right pane is the actual editor. So you can see I can show you my screencasting workflow here. It looks really intimidating at first, but basically the pattern is that you've got a trigger of some kind here, and then you've got a series of actions that happens after that. So in mine, which is like pretty elaborate, I have it hide everything, open Screenflow, open iTerm, launch Visual Studio Code in a special teaching mode, and then resize my window to 1280 by 720, hide that, open Chrome, launch Chrome to localhost 8000, hide my bookmarks bar, and resize Chrome to 1280 by 720. So a lot happening here, but let's build out a simple example of this. I'm not going to walk through every single step here, but you'll get the idea of what's happening. So if we click on new macro or add macro down here, we can call this screencast demo. And one quick note, so this is in the global macro group. You can actually run macros only in certain applications. So I have like a macro, well, I don't have anything in here, but you could run things only in OmniFocus, or when I was using Camtasia, only in Camtasia, which is pretty nice. You could do a lot with Visual Studio Code or OBS or something like that, for example. So back in the global macro group, we've got our screencasting demo. And the first thing you do is you add a trigger. Now you can add multiple triggers, and Keyboard Maestro has a trigger for like literally anything. You can trigger it from a keyboard shortcut, from an application launching, from a time of day, even a cron script. There's tons and tons of stuff that you can do. In our case, let's just use a hotkey trigger. This is just a keyboard shortcut. And now what's awesome is with Karabiner Elements, we could do something like caps lock P, and that's going to be a shortcut for Control-Command-Shift-Option-P, and it's really easy to remember. So mine, for example, is just caps lock S to launch all this stuff. You can also trigger through scripts, which is amazing. So then we want to add some actions. So the first thing I like to do is just hide all the applications. So we can click New Action. It brings up this entire slew of actions that we have available to us. And we have this nice search bar, so I can say hide, and I can just say hide all applications. I can either double click on it or I could drag it over, and then I can rearrange them visually. So we'll do hide all applications. Then we're going to want to launch Screenflow. So I believe it's launch, or maybe it might be under activate. Oh, activate. Yeah, so we want activate application. So we want activate a specific application, and we want to choose Screenflow from this list. You can see that it lists out a bunch of frequently used applications. You can also browse. There's a lot of different options here, but you can do Screenflow. Let's say, for example, we also wanted to launch Visual Studio Code, but we only wanted to launch it with a specific set of settings. For this, you could just use the terminal. So what I do is I activate a specific application, and then I choose iTerm. And then here's one thing that's kind of interesting or tricky. Being in the world of JavaScript, we're very familiar with asynchronous functions here. So we do have to allow for some loading time here. So you have to do a little bit of experimenting. If we go back and look at mine, you can see that we insert the text teach, which is my shortcut for my Visual Studio Code's teaching settings, hit return, and then pause for 3 seconds. And that's to let that process actually run. And this pause action turns out to save you quite a bit of work. So let's do that. We'll go back over to Screencasting demo, and we're gonna do new action and insert text by typing. You just drag that over. And again, there's just all kinds of different actions you can take. You can type keystroke. You can do insert by typing or by pasting, which is great when places have pasting disabled. So I'm just gonna do teach. I'm gonna do type a keystroke, hit return. And then I'm going to find that pause, drag that in, and we'll wait for 3 seconds. Let's just run that really quick and see what happens. Since my screen is a little, I'm just sort of recording this on the fly, I don't know how much you're going to see, but let's hit caps lock P, and you can see that all of a sudden the terminal is here. It typed teach and hit enter. You can also bring up, let's see if my Visual Studio Code, yeah, my Visual Studio Code is here. And it's also in this, it happens to already be 1280 by 720 for a different reason. So cool. So, and you could see that it hid everything and opened up Screenflow. You could see that. I'm going to edit this a little bit so you don't see all of it, but you can see that that's what happened. So I'm an open book about this stuff. Please feel free to ask me anything that you want about Keyboard Maestro, or if you want ideas. I would also definitely check out that Mac Sparky field guide. But yeah, hit me up if you have any questions.